The interview by PokerOrg.
Hey, welcome to the interview from PokerOrg. This is Craig Tapscott. I'm here with Dan Jungleman Case. Now, you probably know, there he is. You probably know he's won 2 Poker Player Championships, and I think he was 2 different characters during his win, which we'll talk about. He's one of the most well-known high-stakes players, especially lately. He's had some really big games. And what I've always been intrigued about Dan is his spiritual travels, his adventures on his inner work and also physical work. He's done some crazy things to get in great shape for the game. And also, one time we talked at Bally's about an ayahuasca journey he had just got back from, and now he's sitting down to play. So I'm really excited to have him. And he's got a big channel called Winning the Game of Life. And it's a podcast that everyone should check out. He has a really cool guests on there, from poker players to coaches and really interesting people. So you got to check out his podcast. And I'm curious, we'll talk about it later, who his favorite guest has been so far. But nice to see you, Dan.
Thank you. So now it's just a content channel. We just do content, not just a pure podcast. And I upload some stuff and stuff from my life, and also I do some stuff for poker, and I have poker guests, but also have real life guests too. We're thinking to organize in a lot of different ways. But it's quite a bit of an effort, I would say, especially while hopping around everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, tell people, you were just told you I couldn't even pronounce it, where you are. You were in the UK. We talked, I'll try to get together last week, and now you hopped over somewhere else. And then I saw on X you were saying, "Hey, I'm going to Spain. Anybody can give me some advice about Spain?" So tell people where you are and what's going on.
I'm in Bosnia, and what's going on here with this internet? I'm trying to look it up. This internet appears to not be the finest. Bosnia and Herzegovina. Herzegovina, yeah. And I'm in a village called Međugorje, something like that.
Why are you there, Dan? What's going on?
Well, supposedly it's like it's actually a religious what's it called? A religious pilgrimage kind of place, and I was curious to check it out. There's supposedly reports of miracles and stuff like that. There's a hill called Apparition Hill where apparently Saint Mary is sighted, and supposedly the cross sweats. Somehow I don't know how that works, but I was curious to check it out. A couple friends have gone here.
Yeah.
I thought, whatever, why not? We'll see what happens. And it was kind of close by, so I figured, yeah, I'll check it out.
I doubt there's a local poker game there.
No, I don't think so either. But you never know. I found a local poker game in the Gambia, and I've found actually a 2550 game in Senegal on accident. I was in there's not that many nice hotels there in whatever the capital Senegal is. I forget what it's called, the capital of Senegal. Let me see. Capital of Senegal. Dakar, right? So I was at the Radisson Hotel, and I meet some poker player in the lobby for breakfast. And it says, "Oh yeah, there's a 2550 game here." Okay, it's probably a pretty good game, unless it's cheated or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
I bet. Tell me, let's start a little bit from the beginning, so people, new people coming on who, you've been a big personality in the game for a long time. Tell me a little bit about the early Jungleman. What was Dan Cates like during your teenage years? What were you focusing on? And when exactly you found poker? Were you doing gaming, or what was your life like in high school that brought you then into poker as you went into your college years and got older?
I didn't. Well, I wanted to play really badly in high school, and I played other games. At least when I got home, like Command and Conquer and other RTS type games that were fun. And so, yeah, poker seemed like a game where I could play it and win money. Not quite as much of a dopamine rush as, say, building an Air Force or a bunch of nuclear tanks or whatever. But yeah, I wanted to play, beat my friends at high school, played some kids while going into college that better than me and kicked my ass. I lost $3,000. Worked at McDonald's, made $1,000. Grinded. Found out I could actually play online and not be 18 years old.
Right.
Grinded my way up from there to winning pretty quickly. Quit McDonald's. I actually helped one of those guys out, and in turn, he didn't pay me back for $80. I still remember to this day, a piece of shit. And then it also caused my account to freeze because they wondered why a card was being used. 2 different accounts for a load of money, and then had to bike down to the DMV, get my account unlocked. Got it unlocked at 18 years old, $350, about $350 in the account, and from there, grinded it up some more. Won a tournament for $5,000, big money right there.
Wow.
That was the last time. That was a few months later, I think. That was the last time I ate out. Ate like shitty cafeteria food, and I just ate out from that point on, basically all the time. From there, and I mean, no one really knew who I was back then, of course. But it took me about 2 years to get to the highest stakes possible, and that was when people started to know who I was. And I was playing. I was a millionaire by then. Kind of really fast forwarded it, but yeah, that's when people started really knowing who I was. And then I took the third challenge, and that's when people really knew who I was, especially when I started beating him.
Right.
So I had some battles with him.
How,
Yeah, that's when really I became well known for poker, and by then
uh,
I'd been a million.
I remember that. So how did your parents accept this as you were going? Well, what was your like projected of what you were not supposed to be or thought you might be when you grow up when you were in high school?
Um, there's anybody better lighting? Let's see. They weren't too thrilled with it at first, but they seemed to think that I could succeed at whatever I did, and were like kind of okay about it for a while. But when I started making more money than them, that's when they didn't mind it too much, I think, or minded it in another way, or maybe or my mom didn't care. Maybe my dad was a bit
Your
annoyed
dad,
that
your
could
dad was
play
more
it.
conservative, or
Huh?
your dad was more conservative?
It's not conservative, but it's not like real in comparison to running like part of a company, for example.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's easier or not. Uh, it's easier in some ways, or that's harder in some ways for sure.
for sure.
Than poker. I don't know if poker is easier or not. To me, I think it's easier, but it's way different. Requires much different skills at minimum, and probably overall, to run like a big part of a company is a lot harder. I think.
You probably Johnny Bax. I remember talking to him years ago, and he obviously did well in Wall Street. I remember one conversation with him when he left Wall Street. For the most part, he thought poker was easier than gambling on Wall Street, which I thought was interesting.
When was this?
Johnny Bax, probably about 15 years ago, he's saying that he
Okay,
made his
well,
money. Yeah, he thought poker was easier than being on Wall Street, where he had been.
so we gotta take these things in certain contexts,
Yeah,
because 15 years ago, this is probably true, but now I don't know. Well, I don't know. Now poker is quite a bit harder, and if someone does play in soft games, it's definitely true. But if someone was to play like in competitive games online, I mean, at least the gap is closer. I don't know. It seems kind of crazy for me to say. I haven't done both, so
yeah.
yeah, poker was
What?
definitely a lot easier 15 years ago, though.
So when you were coming up, I assume about 20. So how old were you when you started playing? Like 16? You said you right before underage, a little bit, 15, 16?
Um, I started playing at 17.
17. So what were some of the share with people, and we'll jump around some topics. I've got some great things to talk to you about. What were some of the get the camera a little lower on you there? Uh, what
Trying
were
to.
some of the aha moments that you just clicked in that sort of differentiated you from some of the other players, and you started winning and
Mhm.
seeing leaks and exploiting things in the game? This is well before solvers. what were some of the moments that you went, wow, this is really going to work for me? I'm finding talk about your study and the way you dove into the game and how it became clear to you to how to exploit and do well in the game at that point. And then obviously also a very successful tournament player also, besides just cash.
Um, well, I'm trying to think of what it would be.
I mean, you won that $5,000 and all of a sudden you've got a bankroll, and that's a lot of money for anybody of 17, 18 years old. So, and you won that. So, did you think you would be more always cash game, or you obviously dabbled in tournaments and have won a few bracelets? So, um, did you just like the challenge of facing both tournament and cash games as you moved up in stakes and things?
I'm sure part of me liked it a bit, but I didn't really do it for the challenge exactly. I guess he did in a way because I had a competitive side. I wasn't so actually. This is one thing I give advice to people is I wasn't so attached to doing one thing or the other. I just went where I thought where the money was at. When I moved to Heads Up, I made $350 in one day, and it sure seemed like people. It was a lot. It was just a lot faster than what I was doing in Sit and Goes, so I switched from Sit and Goes over to Heads Up. Um, I mean, like theoretically, it could make sense to do that for like crypto or something as well. It's a bit of a bigger gap, but it's pretty easy pretty easy jump between Sit and Goes and cash games. I was playing mostly Sit and Goes for a long time. As far as what made, I don't know if it was one thing. I guess it was just that it helped for me to an aha moment of sorts was that it helped for me to imagine each different kind of hand as categories of hands. And there are distinct rough categories between all the hands. You could say between bluffs with a certain kind of blocker potential or not, or gut shots, or weak top pairs, weak middle pairs, etc., and play them in similar sorts of ways, or think about it, play them in your big piece of strategy. All games kind of work like this. This is probably a pretty good model. For when I just realized I could be good, well, that seemed to be a bit natural in a way, in that it just seemed natural that I was able to see the holes in other people's strategies in comparison to whatever I was doing. It just seemed like as if people were a little bit more um, stagnant or rigid than myself. Whereas my whole like way of doing things was just to adjust to the other players. I didn't have like one way of doing things exactly.
Right.
Um, I did have a lot of population what I thought were things that went well against the population. I apparently didn't truly understand poker at the time. That's a big part of it. Was just I was able to counter opponents better than they countered me. I don't know how to teach that. We try to teach it a bit, trying to figure out how to teach it. Should have like a little course on that. That's what a lot of the exploitative courses are about. Um, but yeah, so that would be where I started thinking I was better than other players. Maybe also it's just that it seemed that a lot of players fell into certain hive mind buckets quite a lot, meaning they did things in one kind of way and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And I often just exploited people's population tendencies. This is true in real life too. People do things in one one kind of way or another, and
Right.
it's good to respond in one kind of way. I mean, there are toxic ways of thinking like that. That you can take advantage of people's trust real easily if you did such things. Although that would you'd be an asshole. Um, but you could also, you could. I haven't always done this, but you could lead more with honey versus. So this is that kind of idea. It's like to
Yeah.
lead things more, open the door more with honey than with toxicity, as a simple example, or to not be argumentative. Often it's good, but it depends a bit on the circumstances.
I remember when Phil Locke and I had a conversation, we've known each other for 20 years. He said in the early days of playing and learning poker after meeting Antonio that he kind of liked being the bad guy at the table, having an attitude and being kind of the villain. And then he learned that it was better to be the funny guy. He said, I liked being the funnier guy. And you can see, Phil's personality, you know him well too, I'm sure, that he got, won more money by, like you said, by being the funny, kooky guy at the table and not the bad guy.
Well, if you're the bad guy, then everyone hates you. If you're the actual bad guy,
Yeah.
not the fake bad guy that's teasing, etc. If you're the with multiple different quotes, the bad boy, the actual bad one, that's annoying, an asshole, and try to piss people off. No one likes that. So it has leakage into other games, you can say, or leakage into real life, because it turns out that doing bad things in games doesn't just stay in the game. What a surprise, especially when it's not the spirit of the game. People seem to think it's okay. Well, I've given my logic on why it's not actually, or rather, given my logic for why, if you want to be really pedantic about good and bad, that it's better to, as Phil says, be the funny guy or not be the bad guy. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of taken his route too. Whereas if you make people laugh and you do funny things, you're having some fun anyway, and no one really hates the funny guy. You can be obnoxious sometimes, or it's very hard to be funny consistently. Let's
Yeah.
put it like that. Some people are really funny, I guess naturally, but that's a hard skill to own. And if I'm in a good mood or whatever, I feel like being a bit funny, it just flows a bit more, and I try to be funny at least when it's not pissing people off and being obnoxious instead.
No, I've watched your mini games, and it's a lot of fun. When you make a choice, like, is it just so like improvisational when you choose to dress up as I can't remember, the wrestler for the PPA, the Poker Player Championship, and then you were another character, and then you've dressed up as Hustler many times? Is it a spur of the moment choice? Is that today I'm gonna be this guy and I'm going to be the Grinch or whatever it might be? How does that process go in your head? I'm going to have fun today and be a different character.
It's a mix of a few things. So, um, it's a bit improvisational, but it's also done in such a way that it's not totally random. I mean, I like it for it to be a fun foil to what other people are doing. So, Macho Man is kind of the opposite of a lot of poker players.
Yeah.
He's full of himself. He's like fake. Part of it is being fake cocky in his case. He's real cocky actually, but it's like to the point of totally absurd. And poker players don't really dress like that, even though some of them do have some totally absurd tendencies, or like some of that stuff. And yeah, it's just funny, like Macho Man hanging out with a bunch of poker players and doing some goofy things. Or what's another example? When I claimed it was my destiny to win, dressed as Goku.
Yeah,
Some per-
Goku was great. Goku was great. I mean, do you find that by channeling the energy in a sort of a cosplay, you're dressing up, but you're also an expert in the game? Is that really you can use that to your advantage, or are you just having fun trying to just entertain the table, distract them in a way?
I
Obviously,
know.
all those things happen, and it's definitely entertaining for the people watching to see an expert player also playing around with a character. Do you like? Do you really enjoy playing as someone else? Your personality flowing through the Grand Shore for Macho Man? Is that something that you've enjoyed doing? Obviously, it's fun for us to watch.
I think it's funny. I don't really. I just try not to piss people off. It did. Or if they get really rattled and upset because I'm dressing as Macho Man and doing some goofy stuff, okay, that's a nice bonus. That's just funny. That's
Exactly. I mean,
but I'm not trying to distract anyone or really throw them off. If they get thrown off by stuff like that, I don't know what to tell them. Sorry, bro.
I
I don't
remember you.
know.
I know you were the Grinch one time in Hustle, wasn't you? You were the Grinch, and that costume was getting to you after a while. It
The
was
customs
hilarious.
are not comfortable.
You
They're
had to.
often not comfortable.
They can't be comfy. You're taking off your paws, all I mean, crazy stuff.
Yeah,
It's
you
just
started.
enjoyable to bring that personality, and you seem to really love it. It's really a wonderful part of the game. And then
It's a
you
bit of
get
work.
dragged around in a cage. You're a lion by Helmuth. I mean, did that had to be like? Did you raise a hand and go, "Hey, Phil, I want to be a lion in a cage"? How did that
So,
all? How did that come
yes.
about?
he said he wanted to be the world's greatest showman, and someone had the idea of me being a lion in a cage, and you need to put two together. So it was the time to be a lion in a cage and growl and stuff. It was a bit much, to be honest. That was pretty crazy. I just, that one was a little bit of ego destruction. I thought, man, this is really nuts. Actually, people thought it was an ego. It was a bit much to have Phil Hellmuth drive me around, but I did not care about that, to be honest. I didn't care
for sure.
about that. It just was too much to, have those people staring at me and, just growling, and I just, just be normal for a little bit. This is too crazy.
I thought it was great. It's fun to. Most people don't. My background was I thought I was going to be one thing, and then I chose to end up acting in a play and getting a lead role. Went to New York and studied seriously acting, and so I've done a lot of character stuff on stage. So it is fun to walk in another persona in another person's shoes. And then my teacher always said, if you could take that guy on a bus, I mean, if I could take that character and play, dress up like him, jump on a bus and be him, then that's really the true test. Obviously, bigger than life characters that you do, Macho Man, all that's a whole different. All those guys used to hang out at Gold's Gym. The Undertaker and Triple X H, all those dudes hung out when I first started going to Gold's Gym, and it was a blast having them there. I'm going, holy shit, there's Triple H over there and so over there, and all the crazy, wonderful women that were characters too. So it was like a big show. The Barbarian Brothers were there. So yeah, I think it's fun to step into a different a costume, and also just put on a different hat or wear a different. What I mean?
Some characters.
It's a different, or wear a different shirt. You just feel different at the table. Do you think that when you go to a big game, a high stakes game? I've seen you wear a mask at Bally's. You had these lights on. I remember that day you come back from an ayahuasca trip. But do you feel certain?
I figured out how to deal with that one. I got a big hint in the universe. They kept trying to talk, and the master would just fall over my face, like basically tell me to shut up. I was supposed to just shut up and dance. That was the whole what I should have done. Figured it out, but a little bit late.
A little late. That was at the top. Well, now that we're talking about that for a second, because I have a lot of cool stuff to talk about. We'll get to the Monarch, which was really fascinating. He just talked to our Brad Ellis yesterday. It was a cool interview. I don't know if you saw it yet. One of the first exclusive interviews. Yeah. Brad talked to Monarch about different things, and it's fascinating some of the things he talked about. But that day I saw you at Bally's like a year and a half ago. Talk about your adventures a little bit, because it intrigues me, and I'm a student of personal transformation and meditation and all those journeys that I've experimented with and studied with masters around the world. Your journey, the ayahuasca journey, what was your initial intention going there? What did you hope to get out of it? And then you showed up to play at Bally's a few days after that, and we talked a bit about you seeing colors different. It was pretty cool interview. So what was your initial impetus to go do that, and what did you get out of it?
The initial impetus was to figure out if I should keep doing all these crazy things with my life. I had lots of ambitions, etc. And also I thought maybe there was some magic going on, that kind of thing. There's also a thing bugging me for a while, personal issue. Yeah, and that one actually, the personal issue was it's a bit girl related, but not what you'd think. It's more like I was a little bit traumatized or something. Anyway, so did the ayahuasca. I had some intentions, and I realized one thing that seemed to answer them all at once. At least theoretically, seemed like okay, that was a bit stunning, although I couldn't prove it. And at least I seem to have a bunch of different little unique, what's the word? Coincidences happen to me, or realizations, that sort of thing. That were really impactful for my life. It was like what I imagined magic to be. You could say, as I even had an epiphany about magic, you can say, and about how it relates to science, which was to me very conspicuous that I would have that. That seems very relevant to me because a big part of actually my development was uniting spirituality, religion with science. People don't know that, but that's actually a trend that's existed for me philosophically since I was like 12 years old. And that was a big part of an epiphany later when I was 29 that blew my mind and put me in ecstasy for 4 days. I took no drugs. It was totally natural, all that. I just had a big aha moment, and it was an ecstasy for 4 days, essentially. It wasn't like, it was an altered state of consciousness for a while. It was very strange. I never really experienced, well, I did experience it before a little bit, but nothing like that.
Right.
But yeah, I seem to get what I was looking for out of it. It's hard to really remember it all the time, and it's hard to like know that it's 100% true. But that was definitely the closest thing to magic I've really experienced, other than saying it was my destiny to win a tournament, actually winning it. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That's like borderline magic, but then you say, oh, like, the chances were 50 to 1 or whatever, or 60 to 1. It's not really true miracle. That is, you can keep doing things like that. It's part of the epiphany. So I mostly got what I was looking for out of that. A lot of epiphanies, you can say, it's hard to approximate them totally, or how to not approximate. Excuse me. It's hard to
Articulate.
them totally and know that they're true. But
What was some of the one of them, like, maybe something that really was, do you have some favorite, guides or teachers that you're drawn to? Dr. Joe Dispenza is someone that I've followed for a long time and listened to his work
mm,
and some
I
other teachers like that.
I read Joe Dispenza's book. I was suggested to go to one of his seminar, his things. I could
Yeah.
try that. We'll see what happens. Man, I'm not a huge Joe Dispenza fan, to be honest. I didn't like his book. It's just
Which
read
one?
like
Yeah,
so
he
much.
had 4 books, but yeah.
Gotta be
But
super.
oh, the supernatural one, Beyond the Supernatural. I'm just talking about the whole pathway of going that to go to go out, meaning going inward is gonna create the outward, manifestation. I'm sure you've done some study with creating your own reality, and you obviously did on the magical journey where you predicted you would win and you won. I mean, is there a couple of teachers you recommend or somebody to read or a way for people to approach this of living their life more full, more vivid, more with imagination and feeling that their life is theirs? Because I really believe we create our own lives and it's not accidental, the things that happen to us, you know?
Well, there's parts of that are totally real and parts I'm not so sure about. So one of the parts, there's a couple. Let me talk about the part that's definitely real. Like if you set an intention to do something,
Yeah.
eventually it'll happen. That is true. There is a saying, even Jesus says, "Seek and you will find." You can
Yeah.
see how that's true, but that's with enough time. First of all, now there's a couple, like, you can say, okay, if you want to be a pro basketball player and you're like 5'6", I suppose the idea is that theoretically sometime in the future, well, first of all, that idea is like really incongruent with who you are. So this is where it get into some kind of area where um, it's a, how do you say, it's spiritual, where like theoretically you, as a soul, chose your kind of life, so you wouldn't end up choosing that kind of pathway anyway, a huge percentage of the time. I mean, theoretically, if you had enough and an intention to do that for whatever reason, I guess like in some kind of future life, would be tall enough to be a pro basketball player, is partly the extension of that idea. Um, I mean, it's also true that if you pursue something, and yeah, and like if like it's suggested that in future lives you'll get uh, closer to doing so, if like your intention throughout your life was to do this. This is where really, I can't prove anything. All I can say is that if something's within reason of you, like within reality of you being able to achieve it, uh, theoretically within enough time, assuming we never die, that should be true, right? And especially if it's hard to prove that's going to happen or not.
Right.
As far as creating your own life, totally, this is where, there's this idea that our thoughts shape reality in a metaphysical way. I don't know about that, to be honest. That seems like quite a statement. I could say maybe that's true, maybe it's not true. It's really hard to disprove that. And a big part of that is basically assuming that somehow you made a bunch of decisions previous to your life that you could use a different way of looking at them to, I'll give you some examples in a second to say that, yes, you've chosen your certain life path. So I'll give you an examples also, which will be I run into some of these teacher guys. So, okay, the Indians often don't experience what a lot of the Indian saints, etc., don't experience a lot of what the people in the West and Western culture experience. But basically, they're a big part of their life path is they just go straight to um, liberation, or just don't experience a lot of different things much in duality, and that's just part of their choice for life path. You could have said that that's what they chose from a long time ago. And that the people who are in the West chose to embrace certain other parts of duality, such as uh, war, and such as sexuality, and such as uh, injustice a bit more, and like all that kind of stuff. And you could say that's part of our soul decision, because actually to choose peace or war, to choose to look into utopia or not, also requires choosing its opposite. It means choose. So, as an example, to choose to have hope finally realized is also to choose despair at some point. Lao Tzu said this, and yet, if you think about it, there's quite a lot of truth to that. But it also means that it's the idea is that your soul somehow made decisions adjacent, not bound within the constraints of time.
Right.
This makes sense to me. Okay, I guess this could be true. Um, and you can say, okay, say the people that were following the Christian religion chose a very different life path than the ones that followed Advaita Vedanta a lot of the time, or just went straight to liberation. And that's my interpretation of how to coalesce the religions together, because the path of Christianity is much different than the path um, of Advaita Vedanta, but they're not totally distinct, as a
Right.
matter of fact. And they can even work together in some ways. But basically, the path of Christianity embraces a lot of dualities, uh, such as even massive discord, massive injustice, a lot of worldly things too. Like the big part of that is like working with the world. Hinduism can be like that too. Buddhism is not. Buddhism tends to go straight to liberation a lot of the time. Um, yeah, it's actually Advaita Vedanta might do that, might not do that, but Advaita Vedanta eventually requires the idea behind that one is that you transcend eventually everything, um, and to look at things more as neither good nor evil, which can make sense. And look at them, then you'd have to. It's a little bit more of a discussion to make that make sense. But some resources, I think actually even my own ideas seem to be a little bit novel in that area. But basically, if you look at everything like a poker game, there are some versions of strategies that you consider exploitative, right? And in the poker game, they're not evil. And so in the real world, they're not evil. There is no evil exactly. It's just better ways and worse ways of doing things.
Right.
But if you do things that are very exploitable, you get punished eventually, is the idea. Um, and the I would say that the emotional morality, etc., that's been built up in people naturally having a conscious is it's just what's evolution's way of kind of ingraining into a lot of people. This is why not everyone has the same conscience. It's evolution's way of ingraining in people. Okay, this strategy didn't work. Don't do this because you're going to get fucked up at some point, right?
Right.
And that's like kind of the feeling that you get from playing poker. Okay, well if you go in every hand, yeah, you'll win every hand, but you're going to get fucked up at some point. Um, and so you start developing an intuition. Hey, this sucks. Or if you're too aggressive, you might start thinking, hey, this sucks. You're probably going to get punished. And most people have this if they're bluffing too much, and eventually you get punished. That'd be my way of how to explain these things. But because of the course of evolution, it's starting to show in humanity and a lot of people that generally more moral actions are better for the long term, like almost even by definition,
Right.
than short term. How do you say short term gratification strategies, such as stealing, etc. That's not universally true in all contexts, by the way. But the morality is what's like happened from eons, and you could say or many different lives happening over and over. You could say those are even your past lives and part of your karma too. It's also, you could say it's part of your karma that you're, starving in the Middle Ages or whatever. And now we have the opposite problem of we have suddenly an abundance of food and junk food and all that, which was never, never, never a thing until literally the 50s plus. And so now we deal with all that. But it was also part of the karma. So it's both the good part that now we can to enjoy all that, but the second part is now we have to be disciplined. I don't know if this is making any sense or not, but I'm trying to like make these spiritual paths make sense logically, and make these ideas of creating your own reality, how they would work logically. But the only way they would work is basically if somehow prior to all the physical manifestation of things, you would somehow choose at a soul level something that decision that would kind of transcend time, if that makes sense. You choose both parts of duality of an experience and not just choose. Your choice would work like that. It wouldn't be, like a choice from every moment in time exactly, or at least it'll look like that. But that's my way of explaining how that might work. I don't know that it works that way. But
Right.
this is required in order for you to manifest your reality. To say, I want to be reality. Does that make some kind of sense?
For sure. I mean, it's a journey. Everything's a journey, and I've really
Um,
honor my journey. And one thing I've always wanted to be is a positive force in poker, or anything I do in my life, and also be kind. Even just driving down the street in LA, you'll see a homeless person or somebody that you can help, or you come across somebody. I think being kind in your life is a huge thing that we all can pass on and help other people. Uh, and then you've also, which I believe is true, that you're a stronger player, stronger in life, a stronger poker player mentally, and a stronger in life with endurance. You've also chosen to do some physical things to create a stronger mind, stronger body. I think you've gone and done weightlifting, you've done martial arts. I think I just remember you in some video out in some field doing some things and some lifting. That journey is still ongoing for you. Is that something you've dedicated your life to be in the best shape you can be, and how has that benefited you, including your diet? I'm not sure what your diet is at all, as far as staying mentally sharp and healthy.
well, I wanted to suggest a few resources for looking into this stuff spiritually that would make some kind of sense of aligning things with logic. I don't
Okay.
know if people check it out, but some common sources are like Alan Watts.
Yeah.
There's this book, who's the author? Like something um David Hawkins, not Richard Dawkins. That's
David
the
Hawkins, The Power of Force?
yeah.
Yep.
No, Force versus Power. Force versus Power.
Force, yes,
Uh,
Force versus
uh,
Power.
yeah, there's some like people in the West that are starting to unify spirituality with logic. There's some stuff there that, man, people say all this shit that, God, I don't know if it's true or not. That just like
Yeah.
hearing it, I think, man, what the fuck is this? Um, then I read a book called Yoga by Swami Vivekananda. There's one called
I've
The
read that.
Voice of Babaji actually answers quite some questions in some elegant ways to unite logic with religion a bit in ways that make sense. He even says, like, one thing they say is that, a true religion has to work 100% with science. I believed that when I was like 15. I figured that out,
Okay.
that was the only way things make sense. And that was a big part of my epiphany. But let me see if I can suggest a couple others before I go on the tangents and then get into the weightlifting stuff.
Well, you first, let's make it clear. The Voice of Babaji? I've read Yogananda's book. You may know Yogananda, who actually had a
No,
center here in New York.
Vivekananda.
But
It's a harder read.
but Voice of Babaji's the one that is thousands of years old, that appears to different teachers, correct, in the Himalayan? Is that
Yeah, you know who
Babaji?
he is. Okay, I'm impressed because I don't know if this guy's real or not. I have yet to see any true miracles. I'm a little bit annoyed by that, but
He's appeared to many people. So
like,
Yogananda, that out of nowhere, he appeared to Yogananda, and Yogananda came to the
well,
U.S. because of that.
for
So
what it's worth, reading the book, there are definitely some coherent thoughts in there that make a lot of sense,
yeah,
and they say some sharp things too. So that gives credence to the ideas. Vivek Nanda, by the way, was a genius. He's a very smart guy. And he also talks about, no, you shouldn't believe things that aren't true. And, a real religion has to survive the full light of science, essentially. It has to survive every question. That's
Yeah.
how truth works, or else things aren't true, right? So,
So,
truth is true.
so what other resources did you want to share that has enlightened you?
Um, well, a lot of it was thinking of things on my own, to be honest, and trying to connect them. For example, in Ray Dalio's principles, almost like he describes essentially what is a utopian business. He uses the maxims. Essentially, if you were to apply the maxims of Christianity to to a business, you would get his fucking business, man. Like if you fucking read the Bible and then you try to apply everything from the Bible to a business, you would get
Mhm.
like that business. Like and that and a utopian business and what is projected from the maxims, at least like mostly there's some things that are, it's like 99%. There's a couple of caveats, or 98% or something like that. You get the same thing. It's more like thinking of things from that angle, and you don't exactly need some spiritual doctrine to see these things. You can just use logic to come to a conclusion. Okay, what's best for society? But it's very hard, and there's a lot of subtlety involved, etc. But some of the resources look more like that because I'm not really approaching things from the angle of, okay, I'm reading this book, therefore it must be good. I'm more like reading this book and checking it against how things work in reality
For
and
sure.
saying, okay, it does make sense. I mean, the Mahabharata was one too, but also for that one, I'm looking at how the story works in order to become popular. I'm looking at, okay, what about these ethical choices or this kind of thing? There's some subtlety to things. So, as an example, like one of the kings that's a villain, I forgot his name, but the king that like subjugates the parents of Krishna, he was good for most of the time, but basically he was just kind of running hot in a way. It was like a poker player running into good decisions or easy decisions and never having to make any tough ones. And then finally, something happened and he became a raging scumbag. Of course, he was never a good poker player. He was just running hot. He was never a good person. It just looked like he was a good person. And then, yeah, okay, it turns out, yep, he was a raging scumbag. Now he went on monkey pill and then essentially hung himself for the rest of his life by being a scumbag over and over and over. And then finally, of course, God as Krishna walked up to him and fucked him up. Um, who would have thought? And then, what was his name? Anyway, let's see. Oh, Shankar is supposedly a good resource about this kind of stuff too, but I have not read that.
You,
Another Hindu thinker. I'm trying to think.
you ever read Krishnamurti?
Oh, yeah, he would be a good one too. He's also one. Yeah, some of these theosophic guys are good when they're rooted in reason. Um, and I'm trying to think of who else. Yogananda, yeah, he should be good too. Um, what are some modern ones? Oh, I learned something from this book, Karma by Sadhguru.
Was
This one
oh,
guy, Gurudev, Ravi Shankar.
I
I like
know.
the things that he said, and he seems to be pretty much near as perfect, almost for the most part perfect, at least in ethics. He's probably perfect, like really a guy that is like a perfect guru slash entrepreneur or whatever you want to call him. If
Yeah.
you look at his stuff, he's quite impressive, and supposedly there's many miracles around him.
I
That's
uh
huh?
I pick a lot of books at Osho. I would pick up a book at Osho in this used bookstore in LA and go, just reading a paragraph. Oh, I got to get this one. Now I got like 15 Osho books. So his writings were very interesting and his journeys.
I
Uh,
could take a look at his. I'm sure I've heard he's good too. Seems he was misunderstood a little bit.
well, they
Mm,
all are. I mean, when you do the inner journeys like that and do the kind of work, or I don't know if you've ever done a Vipassana. I've done a few of those, and I've also been an assistant at those and helping people, where it's a 10-day retreat, 10 hours a day of meditation. So you're doing a Vipassana is 100 hours of meditation over a 10-day period. So, and usually you're just sitting in darkness or blindfold so you can go within. And the shit that happens that people go through in a Vipassana, I've watched it every time. And we used to, one of my teachers did it for years up here in the mountains of LA. And what would happen at the beginning of Vipassana is that, no, there's no computers, no cell phones. It's a very clean diet. The beginning of the Vipassana, I've watched it many, many times. People are, I can't sit still, and they're fidgeting, and there's a lot of noise going on in their head, and there's upset, and the joints are aching. Even though you're sitting still, your body is in a lot of pain. You're not moving, but then when you're not meditating, you're usually taking a hike or stretching or yoga or martial arts that we do there. And then you go back into meditation for 4 hours. So what happens about halfway through, your body says, fuck it, I'm giving up this struggle. And all of a sudden the pain disappears in your joints and you can sit still. And what's interesting, it's happened every time because I've done like 10 or 15 of these. All of a sudden nature responds because this is out in nature, right, in the mountain. All of a sudden owls and birds, and we've had a mountain lion walk through the circle and just keep on going. Bears have come down and stood nearby and watched or just walked by. They weren't there when people's minds were just racing and in their shit in their head. But as soon as people got still for 5 days, the last 5 days of those that retreat, all of a sudden nature started showing up like, oh, I can hang out here. This is interesting. So I've watched that every single time. And then you have to be very careful of when you leave that retreat, not to just jump into watching like a horror movie because your sensibilities are very vulnerable. You've got to be careful. You walk into Walmart, you go, oh, this shit, I can't take the lights in Walmart, right? So those kind of long retreats, I've been intrigued by doing you probably heard of these. Aaron Rodgers did one and got shit for it, like a dark retreat where you really have to be prepared to go in darkness for a number of hours. Have you done, I'm sure you've heard about those kind of retreats.
I did one for like 4 days, I think.
You did a dark retreat for 4 days?
Yeah.
What did you get out of it?
It was Aaron Rodgers. At some point, I definitely may. It's really hard to just hop in these things and be efficient. Most people apparently like sleep for the first couple days. And yeah, for a while I could sleep, and at some point my mind's like really fighting it, which I don't think I 100% got through, but I at some point couldn't really sleep anymore and started doing stuff and doing some things, and there was a little drum there. And I was just so bored of hitting the drum. I was playing some flute actually, but at some point my fingers started hurting from playing the flute. Like, damn it. That was probably the highlight of that. That and the flute. I was eating very healthy. I ate only healthy things. No sugar, no caffeine, none of this. At least at first, I was pretty efficient when I came out of there. I definitely had no problem merging with reality after, but I didn't do it for a week or anything. I was advised that only 4 days would be good for me, which, okay. Sure, I became a little bit fidgety and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do more stuff along those lines. I can't really advise that wouldn't really do that much for me. So, okay.
Well, talk a little bit about, because we ought to obviously talk about poker a little bit, but talk a little bit about your fitness journey and that evolution, because my diet's changed over the last 30 years, quite the journey of understanding what works for my body. And I've always been physically active, whether it be martial arts or weightlifting. So I've seen you do different things. You've shared video, you've traveled to do things. So talk a bit about you understanding how the physical journey really helps your brain and helps you play better and helps your life have more energy to enjoy your life.
Well, there's lots of perks of being fit. It's definitely good for being healthy. I think the window's a little bit wider than what people think. Of course, like 15% body fat is actually ideal from what I can see. I've done quite a bit of research on this and decided a lot. Should I get to like sub 10% or whatever? Maybe I could do 12%, I guess. I'm probably a little bit over 15 right now. But yeah, it probably helps your game a little bit overall. I can't, one of the questions I can't really quantify is if there's diminishing returns or not. Allegedly, hard workouts do make it easier for you to do more things on the whole. So they're apparently better for you by quite a large margin than cold showers or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, definitely to a fair extent, it's going to be beneficial for someone's life to focus a bit on health beyond a certain point. I don't know if there's diminishing returns or not on mental performance. I don't know what that graph looks like of more exercise or what the exercise should be to perform better mentally. It'd be really nice to know that, because these are the problems I kind of struggle with. I think, okay, well, how much of this physical stuff should I do? It's not like I'm going to go play sports. No one wants to do, fight me in the ring. Which probably, I don't even know if I want to fight them in the ring, really. But I'll train. Yeah, I'm open to the idea of training for it. I've trained some arts and stuff. Like, how good is it? What are the benefits of coordination, et cetera? And how does it benefit learning in other areas? I would say dancing seemed to be pretty good for coordination, and a lot of things seem to be good for being more spontaneous slightly, and supposedly good for your happiness for some reason. Apparently, for whatever reason, a lot of the spiritual people do end up dancing at some point. And
You did like ballroom dancing or some tango or something. Is that right? The last couple, I saw some videos, right?
no, I did some salsa. I
Salsa.
could put up a salsa video. It's not bad. And I did one with the NSYNC. Was it Bye Bye Bye? There's like a Backstreet Boys. I did Bye Bye Bye. Yeah, it took me so long to get that halfway decent. There were some. Yeah, it was a bit more fun than I thought. But the physical stuff, at least to the point of being fit, there's certainly a lot of advantages. Certainly in the Western world, if you're not in shape,
Yeah,
you have some problems. I can say that for sure. Uh, that seems very.
for sure. Well, talk a bit about. I know our internet connection is a little tough to hear you at times. I've got it for the most part, but so you just I just listened to Monarch, Brad Willis, our journalist and
Oh,
journalist who
by the
wonder.
way,
Go ahead.
um, one thing about like dealing with scammers and stuff like that in Christianity, there is a way of dealing with scammers that is, and people who do bad things, that is considered optimal. So what you're supposed to do is, uh, well, yeah, I would say so. It kind of works like this. You're supposed to basically cut them off from the community, but
Right,
first you confront them in person. When I do this, I always do that. It's also by logic. This is the way that works the best. It's also what's mutually beneficial, because, in fact, their other perspective does have validity. This is one tricky thing about morality, is that it's true that other perspectives matter, including the scumbag's perspective. The scumbag's perspective, like, it has weight that the scumbag thinks this way or that way, right? But you have to somehow coalesce, find a solution where their situation works and yours doesn't. But what you'll find is often the scumbag and yourself agree to a similar kind of conclusion. That's what I've kind of find it lately. People are in disagreement. Is both of you don't really want to deal with each other. But anyway, so first you confront the person. If they don't want to change, then they don't want to, especially adopt what is a universally beneficial way of being, in my opinion. Then you say, okay, bye. Or actually, what you do is you bring them. You're supposed to mention this to the entire community that, in fact, does believe in honor and morality. And if they don't want to change now, okay, bye bye, is the idea. That's the way that you're supposed to handle that, and to put like a divide between the good people, the people who want to be good, and the people who don't want to be good.
right.
That's actually the moral way to deal with scumbags. And a lot of them, yeah, it's really hard to get people to change, I found. But if you just like create the divide, that's definitely a real thing. And if people start doing things like crossing boundaries beyond that, well, that's when you get to fight back. That's when the fight back thing makes sense.
Well, you've gone on the, I wouldn't say warpath, but you've opened up a door where you're saying, "Hey, I'm going to start to out people and say, hey, these people owe six figures, whatever it might be, and say, hey, they need to pay up." And you've shared that on your X and your social media. How have you? And it's interesting. So what was the impetus, or what was your intention behind creating that? Obviously, bring more integrity to the game and people owing money, and then the whole process you went with Tom over the years, but also the main thing was calling out people that owed money, and you
It's
were
not
talking about.
owing money. It's not that they owed money. It's not that they owe money. That's only one condition.
Oh, it's not. That's one part of the debt they owe. Go ahead.
There's a really big distinction here. So
Okay.
first of all, it's happened all the time. I've owed money plenty myself. And part of the way the world works is people can owe money or owe. I would go beyond that and say they can owe a credit of some sort. Like a lot of how life can work can only exist if there's a quote unquote credit system. This is kind of how karma works and all that duality. Now, what I don't like is if, say, someone gets some credit. Like imagine someone goes to the bank, just takes from the bank and says, I'm not paying back. Fuck you. I got a problem with that. Okay, that's bad. That's good for no one except that person. And these are the people who we confront. If they don't want to change, if they don't want to pay back, okay, you get listed permanently. Well, not permanently, but you get listed until you figure out, you decide, okay, actually, I'm going to pay this back. But
Right.
I got a problem with that, where they essentially taken from people who are honest and they don't want to pay it back. It's that simple. It doesn't have to be money, but like I just think that people should be accountable for their mistakes. That's all it is.
I didn't mean owing. I just meant debts that go long, not being paid for years and years.
Well, it's more like even years and years is okay as long as they're making efforts towards it. Sometimes they
Right.
can't.
I agree. I've owed money before to myself and say, look, right now I can pay you $1,000 a month or whatever. At least you have momentum and your
Okay,
intention
well, that would
is
be great, by the way. If a lot of people could start doing that, that would be amazing.
just have the intention to pay back a little bit. At least it gets some momentum towards solving your word. There's a book called The Four Agreements, and one of the first thing is my word is sacred. Being true to your word. So it's interesting
Sure.
that you started. I don't know if you know that book, The Four Agreements. It's a great book, but yeah. So where are you with that right now? You bring it up now and then on your social media. Is something you still bring to light when people have not honored their agreements? Is that
Yeah. So I'm just currently outing people. I got a little bit of higher priorities right now, to figure out, and a little bit crazy of a travel schedule. I'm definitely not perfect, so there's that.
right?
So yeah, I'm outing people. I want to make a list, but it's takes quite some resources. And yeah, for now, look, it's hard to get people to pay. I try to make them pay through social pressure and stuff like that. But if they don't want to pay, you know what? It's time to like there has to be some kind of social stigma or something or social pressure if people don't want to pay. Uh, and yeah, I out people now and then, and no one's perfect. If everyone looks inside, they can figure out that in fact everyone has all kinds of imperfections. Like every time someone said they were going to show up on a podcast at 11 p.m. and didn't show up on a podcast at 11 p.m., that's a little bit scummy, actually.
Yeah.
Well, I did it, by the way, but I'm just making an example. Like that would have been not honorable. But people do things like that all the time, right? Anyway, yeah. So it's about that, and I thought this would be when you mentioned Monarch. He's out to destroy scammers. Also, sometimes I
I,
think he's a little too extreme. It's possible to be too extreme,
yeah.
but I can relate to this idea of wanting to destroy scammers. But at some point, it occurred to me that the destruction of scammers can go too far. Like if you start, like for example, one guy was calling someone who he owed money a pedophile, and I said, hey, that's too crazy,
Yeah.
right? Because the person's not a pedophile; he's just a thief, and he doesn't want to pay. You can say all that. You can say it really loudly. That's all fair, but you can't call him a pedophile. This is the territory of too aggressive, or you start like being violent or stuff like that. That's where also by the way the U.S. law tends to work is you can say the truth, but you can't say things that are really crazy and false and slander. Saying someone's a pedophile is slander. Like that's
Agreed.
when it's talking shit, right? But if you could say the guy is like not paying his debt, you can even say he's a scumbag, um, but you can't like get violent and crazy, um, that kind of thing. I would say I kind of get it if like someone absolutely needs the money and their life is getting ruined. I kind of get it then, but generally there's ways of being there's such a thing as being too aggressive for debts. But the energy of wanting to fix these things is fine. It's not there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's why I know we're going to talk about the big game you had with Monarch, but it's interesting you would jump to that because that one thing I was going to say because listening to the interview with Brad, PokerOrg's Bragg Willis. He was talking about that he outed a bunch of other competitive casinos, and people go, "Well, you're just trying to knock out your competitors," but he actually found algorithms that they were cheating the customers. So that was interesting of him sharing
Oh, really?
his journey of bringing integrity to the casino games and the industry as far as the algorithms and the random number generators, things like that.
Hmm.
So it's fascinating.
I didn't know about that. I didn't know that which casinos were cheating with random number generators. So there ever consequences for that?
Behind the scenes, yeah, he talks about it a little bit in the Brown. I'm not sure. I know something about the algorithms. He knew he somehow he got it to see the back end of a competitor and say this is total cheating, and he proved it. He got all the information. He outed them, and I think they ended up going out of business. But he talks about
There was some justice. Okay.
what's that?
Yeah, there was some justice. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're cheating people, you shouldn't be in business. So talk a bit about now. We've brought up Monarch.
Shouldn't be in fucking business if they're not going to pay their debts. They can't get
100
they can't loan money. They can't get to borrow money if they're not going to pay it back.
exactly. And shouldn't, you see, lots of players who owe money, they go to the cage and they're followed by players that they owe, or players who consistently are winning. And I'm sure we could name names, but there's no point. We know who they are. They're consistently winning, being backed, but not paying their backers off. It's just something that's always bothered me, that integrity of the game, that part of no integrity in the game. And it's sort of pissed me
Yeah,
off.
that doesn't. Yeah, because it hurts you. It hurts everybody that is honest. And yeah, those people shouldn't be able to do things like that in honest systems, because that would take from the honest systems that puts in their pockets, and that's no good for anybody. I mean, I'm saying the same thing 3 times in a row, but yeah. I'm trying to
talk.
think. There is.
Talk a bit about, I know we've gone on about that, but talk a bit about, I watched some of the match with Monarch, and you were, frustrated there in the beginning. It's interesting to see, somebody like you playing against him, be frustrated in the game, which we all have been, and then come out to the other side. Can you talk a bit about putting together the bankroll to play that with the team of people that you worked with? And obviously he's talking about doing it again, playing a number of different players, whether it be Ivy or Fox and whoever. Jason Kuhn's name is up there. Talk a bit about the journey to get in that game, and then your roller coaster till the end when you won a lot of the big pots and walked away with about a $50 million profit, what I understand. Can you talk a bit about that journey, your emotional journey through that, and watching you play those few days?
Sure. So the first thing was I was told I had a couple. And one of the things that does tilt me is my falling outs with some friends, that kind of thing. I had a couple of those relatively recently. It's a bit of bad luck, but some imperfections too. One very minus CB thing is to get angry and use what is it? Mean words. That's like the most minus CB thing, is to use mean words. Like that's massive. For sure. I use them sometimes, but really it's the last resort. It's the last resort. Like if they're like going to war, then okay, fine. Then it might make sense to do that. But really, wait a second, especially if you're not going to war, it's not a good idea. Anyway, so or get super argumentative is not really a good idea, as I tend to do, since I think my logic's pretty good. Anyway, so I wake up to this text Talent, it says, "Oh, this guy Aussie Catola wants to play for 500K." I think to myself, this guy sounds like some online pro. And what is this? I haven't gotten this offer in a while, so I just like kind of lay in bed, like a little bit dejected, a little bit tired. Yeah, whatever. And then someone texts me and says, "Hey, you should play this guy," and that wakes me right up, puts me in a much better mood. And I'm trying to, all right, it's time to go do some stuff. And I don't get to play him for a while. He's playing someone else at the table, some other European player. I thought it was like one of the world's best PLO players, but it's this guy named Eli that he knows. And eventually, I think he loses, but he eventually plays me. And he played a little handicap, and then he actually played quite a bit better than I expected, or a little bit different than what I expected, at least in this session. Yeah. And I was a little bit frustrated, and I lost, and we played for €1 million, actually. And now I just lost a bunch of friends' money and lost my own money. yeah, I'm on a little bit of a downswing. Yeah, that's when it ends, it's like 8 a.m., 10 a.m. or something. I guess it's kind of poetic in a way. I haven't slept. I hadn't really slept, and I had to like deal with that as like lost. And I walked around. I was really frustrated. And then he leaves and he starts talking shit. And there's these memes on the internet, something about the lion roaring, and it's from this guy named Monarch on Twitter. He's saying, "Oh, like they took down the jungle." Not no, I think it's funny actually. But that's what happens when you lose. So apparently later on he lost a couple matches to KN, this Norwegian guy, and the Norwegian guys were at some point Vikings and stuff. And I make like a little meme of like the of Aussie walking around in Finland or something, and KN the pirate running over him with his ship or that kind of stuff. I sent him a couple memes too. But anyway, a couple of guys approached me that got to play him, and yeah, I just sell anyway 'cause it's quite big. I'm not crazy enough to look for big portions of my role. That would hurt me too much. And so I was always playing basically the same share of myself. And then, the selling was pretty easy, actually, especially since a lot of people, they see big numbers, big wins, they hit you up, like, I have a piece and blah, blah, blah.
Gotta get involved, yeah.
So, guess what? People are giving me something for those pieces. Jungle Man knows his worth, okay? No, ain't no hoe for the pieces. Ain't no hoe, okay? And price is high, price is steep. So, or at least I'm an expensive bow. And what happened? So I played him again. So what happened was I traveled through Europe. I went to Norway, saw some beautiful things, beautiful city, Aalesund, and then went to Stockholm. Saw also some beautiful things, went to some poker clubs, met some poker players, hung out a bit. And then I had some plans to go to Barcelona. And made all these plans, and so it's like, okay, I'm gonna chill here and work on business and do all this stuff. And then I get a text saying, Aussie wants you to come play and fly to Cyprus. Change all my plans to go fly and play this guy. So at some point, I kind of come to terms with it and realize I gotta do this for the team, for the people who got us here. So I do it. I pack my stuff. I fly all the way to to Cyprus to play him. Don't play him the first day. Apparently he decides not to sleep. Okay. And was really trying to play. We couldn't get the stream to be working for a while, but at some point they figured out, okay, it's actually good to stream this thing of me playing Aussie Catola. And so they got it working at 4 p.m. a few hours later than what he wanted to play. And so I played him first for €1 million, won that kings versus aces. Yep, definitely lots of skill there. I didn't earn I didn't actually make any money by doing that. I think that was just cooler in theory in the long run. And then we play another one for 1 million, and he beats me. I'm pretty steamed. Seems like he's getting very lucky. We can 2-pair versus 2-pair, things like that, trips versus trips, that kind of thing, and winning. That's quite lucky. Those are quite lucky situations. And I lose that, and he's like, I don't know, maybe he thinks he's got an edge, maybe he's feeling it. He decides, let's bump it up, €3 million. Okay, sure. And I lose that one, and then I get bluffed by a 6-4 offsuit. I'm in a world of pain. Like, man. And then he wins again. It seems like there's loads of coolers. Yeah. Right now I lost my crew and myself, €5 million total. And like, man, it's not a good situation. I'm not feeling too thrilled about this, and it seems like I'm just like a little bit in a world of pain. Like I'm ready for the lion roaring or whatever is gonna happen. The memes. I'm just seeing like the memes of conquering the jungle, slaying the animal or whatever. And then he says, "Okay, let's go for €5 million." I think, okay, yes. And I start figuring out some holes in this game. Well, I kind of did anyway, but I did. I would say I already knew something. Figure out some other things and tried some things that I had suspicions for. And
for various reasons. And I won. And then guess what? He wants to play again. And, he hasn't slept much. He hasn't played nearly as much as me. So it's going to be hard to adjust and hard for him to really know what's going on. I won again. He also makes some straight up fundamental mistakes. And then he's like, okay, I'll pick 6 million euros. It's time to go for the juggler. It's time to finish him. Mortal Kombat, right?
Yeah.
And so again, and won again. So the jungle came out on top. And at this point, I made history and won for 15 million euros and even got some big bluffs through. So won with a bit of style and made some big folds and all that, and everyone's happy. On my side, probably not happy over there, but then they accused me of this butt plug thing. Okay, well, that'd be really that was a joke. But then the electronic butt plug thing showed up, and that would have been an interesting method.
So
the giant
one time, I think Brad asked him, because I didn't see the end of the game. You were allowed to watch the stream while you were playing.
I was always allowed.
Oh, always allowed. Okay.
Yeah, there's a delay, and I could have checked it on my phone. I didn't watch it, but people sent me some hands that they missed one big hand or a hand that was important. Actually, I was kind of pissed off when I realized they missed this hand. They clearly were not doing their job well because it was just such a it's a pretty clear exploit, and they botched it. But at some point, I got someone to send me all the hands. But later on, I wasn't really checking all the time anyway. I checked every once in a blue moon because he was starting to get kind of salty at the idea of checking the phone. But yeah, it's not really a secret that you can check off the stream the hands on the stream. That's not
for
a secret.
Sure. Yeah.
That was never against the rules. That wasn't the condition of laying all his juice.
Well, Monarch was bringing up that Jungle probably had a whole team of analysts checking out the hands and helping him out, and that's fine. And it's interesting. He said, "Well, this wasn't really life-changing money for me, so it's okay." I mean,
dude. I did not have a whole team.
That's what he said. That's what he thought.
The guys who had shares with me, a few people, we talked about some stuff, but they didn't really. I'm trying to think if they said anything that was maybe at some point particularly meaningful, but nothing that I figured out more things that they did. And actually there was one or two things that one of the guys really disagreed with, and I just kind of, we were torn on that. I didn't use that I thought was better. I'll say that, but pretty much 80+% was all my own, or more than 80% of what I did was all myself. I didn't have a team of analysts or anything like that. So I already played 10 million hands of poker throughout, so I don't need a team of analysts to figure out what I should.
I had to listen to that interview.
To see the hands is useful. I just needed someone to send me all the hands so I could see what's going on.
Yeah.
That's useful. But there's no analysts, nothing really advanced or anything crazy going on. I can promise that.
I didn't think there was.
One guy was definitely wrong about one or two things.
Yeah. So what's next? I mean, would you play him again? I know he's showing up. I guess he's in Triton right now. Would you take him on again for a rematch if he wanted to? It's pretty amazing that he can say, well, dropping that much money is not life-changing for him. He wouldn't play for that much if it hurt him. So whatever, if that's just ego or that's just bragging, or he's done really well in business probably. So.
Yeah, well, he must have done some things right, obviously. He's quite a smart guy. I mean, usually when you lay some kind of handicap, I'm a little bit reluctant to do that because people are smart about it. I know he's getting coaching.
Yeah.
They're going to fight back at least. So the irony is, at least in my career, I think this is the universe trying to teach me a lesson. Whenever I don't respect people that think they're stupid, they always surprise me or beat me or run hot against me. They run hot against me a disproportionate percentage of the time when I think they're stupid, for sure. And I think they're really good. I usually run hot against them. Or, on the whole.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Underwhelmed.
That's really interesting observation. So talk about a few more things to finish up with you. Like what you've got a great show. I really enjoy your podcast, Winning in the Game of Life, because it translates beyond the felt. What have been maybe a couple of guests that you were really impressed with, or that you walked away with, wow, I learned a lot from that person? I know you've had one of my favorite guys, Phil Galfond. You've had Jordan Drummond. You've had Don. You had Katz. You had Fedor, and obviously Phil Hellmuth, we both love. So what has been like one of your favorite guests? If you walked away today and said you would never do another one, who did you really enjoy the most and why?
One second. Nate Silver was one of my favorite guests. I think his area of expertise is really interesting.
Yeah.
His views are really good and that sort of stuff. And I prefer to talk more about geopolitics and stuff than poker. Poker to me is mostly a solved game. At least I'd like to talk about the ways in which it can be improved on and what can actually be done with it to make it better as a game rather than strategy. Usually, I mean, it's just rare that I have a strategy discussion that I get much out of, but I get a lot out of geopolitics. I'm not an expert in geopolitics, but it has a similar skill set and it's something that I just personally am really drawn to for lots of reasons. And that's what I'd like to help with in the future is eventually do things that involve helping. There's a lot of subtlety to it that help like geopolitical situations. Do more stuff that involves in making impact. And you have to really understand the big picture in a lot of different ways in order to do that. And you can also see when you start going down these sorts of rabbit holes, you can also see why the world is as it is, and what can be done to make it better. Because that's not really an easy question to answer. People think, oh, they've got all these opinions and blah, 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 but they're wrong a shitload of the time. Yeah. Because of reasons. I can give some examples. So people think, oh, like, why can't, here's an example. People think, oh, why can't, like, all this money, there's all this money in the world, why can't, like, someone just donated a shitload of money and now everyone's fed? There's a lot of problems with that. Yeah. So first of all, to get money to people, they get food to people is quite an undertaking. Secondly, the geopolitical and the political situations of a lot of different countries is very complicated as well. Thirdly, the food situation is changing a lot. Fourthly, how are you going to convince these people to do that? What is in it for them? These very rich people to do that, like their desire to keep their food, their money is, one thing. Like say that, oh, you could solve world hunger, just give all the money to United Nations or something, or Red Cross or whatever. Yeah. It just doesn't work like that for a lot of reasons. I don't know. I don't understand that one a lot, but I do understand a lot of like why the reality of all that is very complicated. And by the way, if you read in history, one book, if you read about Peter Zeihan, he really opened my eyes as to how luxurious our state really is. The U.S. has a lot of advantages, but most places in the world would never, ever like have a lot of the benefits of modernity without a lot of things just working. Basically, there's just so many things that can go wrong that people would like not be able to have raspberries as an example, or like some basic fruit that you would have taken for granted. But I just find that to be very interesting and intrigued by a lot of places. So here's one of the guests, Nate Silver. Here's another one.
What poker player surprised you the most? I know you've known a lot of the top guys, and Galfond's one of my favorite people in the world. What poker player that you said, wow, that's really interesting, I would never thought that way? Can you think of a player that really impressed you for their worldview, or there's so many really cool people out there in the game?
Maybe Lucky Chewy.
Oh, Andrew. Yeah, Andrew's a good friend. Yeah. So you spent some time and talked with Andrew?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, I'd have to look at the list. There might be on the list. Of course, I respect plenty of poker players. I respect Jason Kuhn and Chewy, and also Drew Teller and Steven Chewick, all these guys. Yeah. I appreciate him on my podcast. Who's impressed me the most with their worldview? I don't know. I always say that people underestimate, don't appreciate the way Phil Hellmuth does things outside of poker. He still does a lot of good things that most poker players don't care about in their short-sighted ways.
He does.
I have to look at more of the guests I had on. I have to look. I mean, we're also thankful for all my guests. I liked a lot of the things that a lot of things that let's see, I forgot. A lot of things that Victoria Livich was about.
I didn't know you talked to Victoria. She's a brilliant woman. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to see who else I had on there. Yeah, just see my list. Are there any other ones you suggest?
No, I just was going through the list. I was just curious who stood out of all of them. But let's talk for that was that was pretty good. I've had conversations with Andrew because obviously he's very much into the spiritual realm too, and the intentions and intuition. And Andrew always has the same face at the table, and he just seems like a happy-go-lucky guy, and just as he brings a great spirit to the table. He has a great presence at the table, and obviously a very, very good poker player also. So blessings to Andrew. He just had a baby within the last couple of weeks. So he and his girlfriend. So that's really cool. But I was going to talk about, I don't know if you've seen it or had a chance. You've been traveling a lot, but I'm doing a new mental health series for PokerOrg, and I touched on mental health in the game in my first feature across a gamut of the issues in poker. And then I spoke to Brad Rubin. I'm sure you know Brad. And a guy named Rayan Chalmers, and then also obviously Stephen Chidwick. And then a feature I talked to Chidwick more about what he shared. I'm sure you saw his post a couple of weeks ago about his journey and his depression and going through mental.
That was pretty insightful. Yeah, I was surprised by that. He
Yeah, me
didn't talk
too.
so much about that on the podcast, so.
Yeah, he just came out. He just talked about it and was just figured it was time to say, hey, I have these issues. And on the spectrum, different things he realized about himself and about his inner journeys and experimenting and reading and working with, studying Carl Jung, and how that he went through a really fragile time in the darkness, but hey, keep going. There's light at the end of the tunnel. So it was really inspiring to talk with Stephen. And my feature that came out yesterday was mainly around his journey, and also other people saying, "Wow, I can understand that because I've been there too." I was going to ask you, have you had any issues over the 20 years of playing that you thought, "Wow, I need to walk away from the game. I need to get this part of my life together." That a lot of players have been through depressions and different things happen to all of us. Is there any time period in your life while playing the game that you felt affected, you need to walk away from it and figure things out?
Yeah. Some chick broke my heart when I was 21 years old. Or was it 22? No. I guess it was when I was 22. Yeah, there was that. There I was really out of it. That happened. What else?
What do you do to maintain a strong mental game or balance in your life? What kind of things do you do that you feel that benefit you?
Just not being so, making it everything that matters. I mean, one of the I said that you're supposed to. What's the word? You're supposed to do something that's less stressful if the stress is really high from it, and it's things are not going particularly well. If you're at least emotionally compromised, you should do something else, such as I get a massage, or go for a walk, or go to a vendor, or whatever it is. Watch some YouTube videos, that kind of thing. Yeah. All those things. I mean, meditation's good also. Obviously, I sometimes do that. Yeah, do it semi-consistently.
I find I've certified in Kundalini yoga and studied many years, but just being still. A lot of people have a problem just sitting still. And by just doing stillness practice, whether for 3 minutes or 30 minutes, it's a journey of just, resetting your body. And I just feel that benefits me a lot, just sitting still for even 3 minutes every morning.
Sure. I can see that being the case.
Yeah, you've experimented a little bit with yoga or no? Did you go to India? I've
Yeah,
always wanted to go.
yeah. Well, supposedly yoga is good for your health in all kinds of different ways. Pretty common knowledge. I probably should do it more, but it's very, very difficult to get all these things together. I'm like effectively doing it more. Someone's trying to tell me that the Tibetan rites are more than just physical exercises because something about energy. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Maybe that's true. It's very similar to yoga in some ways. I don't really get it, but okay. If you do things in a precise kind of way. I don't know if it has something to do with electromagnetism or how the fuck it works.
Right.
You probably need to explain to me if that does make sense.
So what's next for you? You're here in a little village and a little kind of like exploration there. You've heard about some things. So what's next? Where do you for the rest of the year? Are you coming back to play in some events, or what are you looking forward to in your life, both outside of poker and within the game?
Um, so I want to keep expanding my brand. Ideally find some answers to a few questions if possible. I want to figure out how to, I'm just working on the business. I'd rather be focused on business and making content. I'm not a content or business expert, but I'd like to get that running and do that full time at some point, or not full time. Well, focus more on the impact side of things and just playing poker and trying to make money all the time.
Yeah.
I invested in a Chinese tourism company. China is very impressive as a country to an experience. So that too. Go to China and then I have a bunch of ideas.
Have you studied any Taoist philosophy or anything like that over there?
Tao Te Ching,
Tao Te Ching, yep.
probably that's something. Trying to make it work. Yeah, I don't know much more than that. I have to partition my time somehow.
Obviously, there's so much to do. And it's really been fun watching your journey. And when you show up to play in a game, I think it's entertaining for the poker industry. And we love the way you show up to play and playing the high stakes. So, do you have plans to? What was I thinking about that? Monarch said it's very spontaneous about these games. He shows up and it just happens spontaneously, like with you. Do you think you'll play him again before the end of the year? I mean, do you play any other high stakes games you plan before you finish this year out?
It's up to him.
Up to him. So you're putting a challenge forth right now. Let's do it.
I guess.
Little rematch or?
Sure. I mean, he knows I want to play. He's got to study his stuff. We'll see. We might do a little fight. That seemed like possibly a fun idea. He wasn't so keen on it last I checked, but we check again. He might. But that's going to be a lot of work, to be fair. But I did want to learn martial arts properly. To be fair.
No, it benefits your whole life across the board. I've been doing it my whole life. So I really appreciate taking the time. We had issues with Wi-Fi last week and we sat down and I always want to know where Dan, Jungle Man is in the world. It's always fascinating to follow your journey, but check out his Winning in the Game of Life.
Well, it's called Jungle Man Dan, the YouTube right now.
It's called, what's the name now?
Jungle Man Dan is the YouTube. Also check out the Jungleverse. We're changing a bunch of things to make it better so that beginners can learn and get a great experience out of it. We're also giving a high ticket offer to help. We're opening up a high ticket offer quite soon for more serious poker players too. I would like to help some of them become millionaires. That's a big goal of mine. I bet help some people become millionaires already, but I'd like to do it more now in the future. Particularly ones that want to make a difference. And eventually lead them towards business, but let's wait for me to figure that out. But anyway, the Jungleverse to help change your life, get rich, that kind of thing. Make money through poker. Check it out. And my site is Jungle Man Dan. And
right,
also, Go Wizard, one of my sponsors that wants me to message them. And to, of course, Fit on Poker and AA Poker, which I sponsor too, that are sites that you can actually make money online from because they don't charge your ass rate.
Well, I really appreciate your time today, Jungle. Let me know how that journey goes there, and I will see you again soon. I appreciate it, man.